In the top stories, Ambassador Ian Liburd presents credentials to the UN. Singing Sandra finally laid to rest, and Guatemalan families mourn their dead relatives. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Friday, the 5th of February 2021. I'm Jason Davis. We begin with national news. St. Kitts and Nevis' permanent representative to the United Nations, His Excellency Ian Liburd, has presented his credentials to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. In a brief ceremony on Wednesday, Ambassador Liburd met with Mr. Guterres and officially presented his documents. The Secretary General welcomed Ambassador Liburd and pledged the UN's commitment to assist with the global challenges that small states like the Federation face.
I know how challenging the present situation is, with, of course, the growing impacts of climate change, but also the COVID and the destruction of the substance of the economic pillars of your country and many of the countries of the region. And so you can fully count with our solidarity, with our commitment, with our engagement, side by side with your government and your people, to defend your interests and to make your voice sound clearly in the international arena.
Ambassador Liburd was appointed as the Federation's permanent representative to the United Nations in January. Meanwhile, back in the Federation, event planners here are being strongly encouraged to follow the provisions for hosting social events as outlined in the COVID-19 Act. During Wednesday's edition of the National Emergency Operations Center COVID-19 briefing, Superintendent Cromwell Henry of the Police Force noted that events, including those held on public beaches, can contribute to an increased risk of the spread of the virus in communities if persons are in breach of not following the health and safety protocols.
We are well aware that social events bring people together in ways that facilitates the spread of the virus from person to person. Some may say that there is no COVID-19 in the community and that all the cases are contained and are in quarantine. This may be so, but not entirely so. The truth is, we do not know when there will be a case of COVID-19 in the community.
The Act outlines the guidelines for using public beaches. It states that a person may visit a public beach for the purposes of swimming or exercise where no more than 8 members of the immediate family should be in close proximity to each other, and where there shall be no picnics, beach parties or other gatherings, and where all persons shall follow social distancing and physical distancing protocols. The COVID-19 Prevention and Control Act also speaks specifically to the restriction on social activities. It states that no person shall host, attend, or visit a social activity or gathering of more than 25 persons, including a private party, banquet, ball, or reception, or any other ceremony in any facility or public place, a meeting of a fraternal society, private or social club, or civic organization or association, any public beach, or any other type of social event, except with the written permission of the Commissioner of Police in consultation with the Chief Medical Officer.
Whenever permission is granted for an event at a specific venue, that permission is not transferable to another venue. Permission must be sought for any change of venue. Changing the venue without permission will automatically void the permit.
The Act also states that a person who contravenes the provisions of this section commits an offense and shall be liable to a fine not exceeding $5,000, and a police officer or member of a compliance team may issue a fixed penalty notice to a person who contravenes the provisions of this section. St. Kitts and Nevis is gearing up to roll out its national vaccine deployment and implementation plan, as 21,600 COVID-19 vaccines are expected in the next month or two. The vaccines, developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford University, will be made available through the COVID-19 Global Access or COVAX facility. On Tuesday's edition of Leadership Matters, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hazel Laws said that the demand for a jab far exceeds the expected supply, and as such, health authorities will rely on the established established plan to inform who will receive a vaccine in this initial phase. Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, Medical Chief of Staff of the Joseph N. France General Hospital, added that recommendations from the World Health Organization will also be considered as the various groups and individuals are identified.
Following the World Health Organization guidelines, the recommendation is that the persons at risk be vaccinated first. So the frontline healthcare workers are the ones who are usually the first, and then the vulnerable, the persons who are in nursing homes, etc., people who may succumb from
Dr. Laws noted that vulnerable persons include individuals suffering from multiple morbidities and other chronic conditions such as diabetes and hypertension. Persons with compromised immune systems are also a priority. The chief medical officer indicated that vaccinations would likely not be mandatory. However, public education campaigns and other interventions will be employed to ensure that the public has all of the relevant information to make an informed decision about receiving a vaccine. Regionally, hymns, tributes, and tears as the last rites for Sandra Devine's Militon, better known as Singing Sandra, took place on Thursday in Trinidad and Tobago as residents of Hirondelle Street in Morvant joined with
the songs of bells. The songs of bells, the drums, and spiritual melodies echoed through the hills as the residents of Morva and environs celebrated the life of Sandra Devine's Millington on Thursday. While Wednesday was the cultural farewell with ministers and dignitaries at Queen's Hall, Thursday's send-off was about Singing Sandra's family and friends. Veteran calypsonian Edwin Ayong, also known as Crazy, paid musical tribute to the two-time calypso monarch.
This is dedicated to those who died. Sandra Devine's I'll always remember, jumping when a steel band passed. Let me hear you playing mass. Sugary, fiery Sandra was never ever one for class. Sandra Devine's wherever you are, mother, just for you we come out with we.
Singing Sandra's funeral service was held at the Rondell Basketball Court, with her remains being interred at the Tunapuna Public Cemetery. Officiating priest at the Oratia funeral service was Baba Michael Osuna, more popularly known as Sugar Aloes.
Sandra was a lover. Sandra would give away her last, and then turn to somebody else and say, you know, I just gave her my last something, give me one now. So you didn't know you wanted yours? Sandra will have a cigarette in her hand, a pack of cigarette with one cigarette in it, and you ask her, Sandra, could I have a cigarette? And she will hand you it. And when you tell she, but there's only one in here, she says, so how much you want to smoke one time?
She was sent off with full Oratia rights. Her husband, Stephen Millington, did not attend either celebration as he was diagnosed with cancer last June and is in a hospice in Arima. Terry-Ann Brown Campbell, TTT News.
Following 2 weeks of wrongful detention from neighboring Venezuela, 2 Guyanese fishing vessels and their 12-member crew have been released. Wendell Badry of HGP TV News spoke with the elated relatives of the fishermen and filed this report.
In a press statement released by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Wednesday, it was revealed that the Foreign Minister of Venezuela, His Excellency Jorge Arriaza, communicated to Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Hugh Todd, that all legal proceedings against 12 Guyanese fishermen had been discontinued at the request of His Excellency Nicolas Maduro. The vessels are expected to set sail for Ghana on February 3, 2021. In response, Ghana's foreign ministry said that the government of Ghana appreciates the efforts of the heads of government in the Caribbean community and of the wider international community in securing the release of the crew and vessels. The release further outlined the value of mutual respect in the relations between the Cooperative Republic of Ghana and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Nightly News spoke with some of the relatives of the fishermen upon receiving the news. Hazel Singh, who resides on the Essequibo coast, had 3 relatives aboard the Lady Nayara vessel. Javin Boston, her son, Joel Joseph, her nephew, and Nick Ragubar, her cousin. Singh said she's elated beyond measure.
Yes, I'm very happy because I got a 2-year baby. The father died and he just made, and the son is helped now. And a couple of days now she was crying and asking for me. And this man tell her she brother come home, and she brother going to come home and she feels she just laughing upon stuff.
Meanwhile, Sita Ramnarine, wife of Richard Ramnarine, expressed that throughout the ordeal, she remained optimistic about the well-being of her husband and the crew.
I was a bit worried, but I still had faith. I was waiting. I know there was going to be some good news sometime soon because we have a good government and ministry in place to carry out the job.
Tony Garraway was one of the crew members aboard the vessel Seawolf. His mother expressed the view that although she is elated at the news, she would not fully believe that the men have been released until she is able to see her son in person.
We just sit in the paper, we have people believe. When we see them, we believe what's going on.
So you don't believe it as yet?
No, I don't believe nothing.
Okay.
Them, and make up people.
Okay. So which tells me that you didn't receive a call from him since?
No.
Orlando Roberts was also aboard the Seawolf vessel. His wife, Tricia, who is expected to give birth very soon, told this newscast that while his family is happy at the news of his release, his 3-year-old daughter was inquiring about his whereabouts and that she had no other choice but to tell her daughter the truth. She further spoke to how she has been coping since his departure.
Well, for the time he has been gone, it's kind of difficult, but I had my relatives, to be with me and to help me out in this situation.
Right. I mean, I don't want to get too inquisitive, but, were you eating well, sleeping well, and that kind of thing?
Not really, because at least I was studying, thinking about, what could happen. If they would harm them or, if they would have enough, food supply.
On January 21st, 2 vessels, Lady Nayara and the Seawolf, along with their crew, had been intercepted by Venezuelan military in Ghana's waters. This move follows a decree issued by President Nicolas Maduro on January 7th, laying claims to Ghana's maritime and land space west of the Essequibo. President Irfan Ali rejected the decree by Maduro and subsequently called on the Venezuelan president to release the vessels and their crew. CARICOM, as well as the international community, condemned the move and echoed similar sentiments. The border controversy case between Ghana and Venezuela is currently before the International Court of Justice, ICJ. The case management conference for the matter will be heard before the court on February 25th. Wendell Badri, HGP Nightly News.
Internationally, a week and a half ago, 19 bodies were found shot and burned in Tamaulipas, Mexico. Among them were Guatemalans traveling through the country to get to the United States. Al Jazeera's John Holman set out to talk to their families.
Neftali's on the way to the small house his brother Elfago was building for his wife and 3 children.
That's why we went to the US, to try for a better life for them. Because when you work the land here, you can't make it pay. But there you get paid.
He won't see it finish now. On the way to the US, Elfago was shot. One of the Guatemalans that Mexican police killed and then burnt in Tamaulipas state. Neftali still doesn't understand it.
I ask myself how it's possible that the authorities take justice into their own hands. It's the impunity. It's beyond measure.
Elfago was a farm worker and pianist in a Christian music group. He had another child on the way. This municipality, Comitancillo, is submerged in shock and sadness. They think they've lost 13 people in the attack. In another house, Maria Isidro can't forgive herself for letting her son Robelson go. She hasn't heard from him and believes he's dead too.
Why did he go? Why didn't he listen to me? You just don't know. You see everyone else getting to the other side. And now I regret it. It's as if I sent him. I should have said to him, no, and that's it.
But Robelson wanted to get his family a kitchen, and he couldn't do it with the $3 a day he earned on a nearby coffee plantation. He was 15. Difficult to imagine the probable terror of his final moments, or his mother's distress now.
When I found out that my son was dead, I died of sadness too. He was the only son I had who was grown up, who helped me. Whatever he earned, he would give it to me. Who's going to help me now?
This has happened before in Mexico. 72 migrants were killed a decade ago in the same state. They're easy prey for gangs who kill, kidnap and extort them. But this time round it was the police, those meant to protect them. That's caused anger on both sides of the border. And misery here. But the people of Comitancillo rely on migration. There's so little for them where they live. The likelihood is that in the future, more of them will be running the same risks as Robelson and El Figo. John Holman, Al Jazeera.
And now for the weather. Present weather shows cloudy skies with slight haze. The temperature for today is 28 degrees Celsius or 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds are east at 12 to 21 miles per hour, reaching as high as 28 miles per hour over open waters and elevated areas. Seas are moderate with waves of 4 to 6 feet. And the weather forecast says to expect partly sunny skies in general for today, and for tonight fair to partly cloudy skies and cool conditions with a 20% or slight chance of a brief passing shower. Sunset today will be at 6:08 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 6:41 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.